Hello guys, my name is Nato's Safix, and today we have yet another session here at the Gosu Academy. If you don't know what the Gosu Academy is, it is a place where you can get coaching from many different coaches throughout a week. I do Thursdays, and it's very friendly for whatever kind of schedule you have. I know we have a new guy here with us who is working the midnight shift and is on the East Coast in America. On top of this, EU time zones, whatever, it fits most of the time. There's plenty of different coaches. I'm not exactly sure how many, but I think it might be more than five. And there's, as I said, many sessions throughout the week. So if you're interested in getting more coaching in Counter-Strike, this is definitely the place to be. Otherwise, you can now just enjoy the video. But if you would like to join in future sessions and ask your own questions or request topics that I talk about, then again, Gosu Academy would be the place to go. And there is a link in the description for exactly signing up to this. You can try it out for a month, and it is with 100% money back guarantee. So if you don't like it, you can simply just request your money back. What we will be doing for today's session is it is a little bit experimental. Some sessions I have sort of prepared in my mind to the point of knowing what I'm going to say pretty precisely, and I know that I can easily fill all the time. By the way, sorry if you hear some WhatsApp notifications. That is at the moment mine. So this time, the reason it's a little bit experimental is because this session will be all about thinking outside the box. Recently, I've been thinking outside the box with a few different things in Counter-Strike, and it is things that I think have the potential to, be a part of professional Counter-Strike, but haven't yet become it. And it is partly a way for me to show you some tricks that basically no one's ever done, but it's also a chance for me to basically just hopefully teach you to yourself think outside the box and come up with some tricks that can win you more games. So one of the things that I had as a thought here is that when people play Nuke, it's very popular to do the top main smoke, and then people do like the diagonal wall. And what we see from a lot of teams, professionals, and also high elo faced players is if you throw an HE and you get it to land in the middle of these two smokes, as you can see, the whole wall gets disrupted, and I can see and I can potentially get kills like this. Now, something that struck me, randomly the other day is that it's at the moment basically only 2 or at max 3 HEs being dropped or like used for this purpose. But as the smokes are up for about 20 seconds, my thought was when the Ts are doing this wall of smokes, they have 3 smokes that are already used. And if instead of just only having 2 smokes, so like the rotation player and the outside player's grenade, or even some teams do it that they have a third player drop their grenade, I thought, why not 5? And even though it might seem kind of crazy, if you have this wall of smokes and you're able to nade the smokes and check, and then wait a little bit and nade the smokes and check. If you're able to do this 5 times, I do believe it's enough times that you nade the wall so that the Ts can't even use the wall whatsoever. And even if you only have like 2 or 3 nades, you would be able to nade this and then at the end Molotov in front of secret, so that the Ts would essentially be wasting 3 smokes. Now, doing this at the start of the round, kind of when the wall goes up for the first time, would mean with HEs you are essentially nullifying 3 smokes, or at the very least 2 if they just do the diagonal wall without the top main smoke. And I think it's a really, really interesting thought that I haven't seen any pro team try out yet. In my head, logically, this makes so much sense, and I don't understand why no one has done it yet. But this is an example of, I would say, thinking outside the box. There's something that, at least for me, logically makes sense, and is something that no one's really done before. I'll give you a trick that I just came up with the other day. For this, I've actually found the grenades, and I'll try to show you kind of how it looks. So you can try it out in your own games. This trick needs a teammate to succeed, but still, it's a pretty neat trick that I am fairly certain no one has done before. So my idea was having a smoke that lands around this ledge, because if you have a smoke that lands here, it extends all the way down, and it extends on top of these boxes. It blocks off everything very nicely from a CT perspective, and also allows for a little bit of trickery. So part of thinking outside the box is the initial part is obviously coming up with an idea, and coming up with this idea is, first figuring out, okay, is this even possible? But then afterwards, the issue I was having is, how do I get a smoke to land here? And it might not seem that difficult, but because this window is so small, and because the angle of this window doesn't really allow you to throw a smoke like this, it was actually far more difficult than I thought. I tried many different things. I tried going here and doing like a jump throw smoke. Sorry, I don't have my jump throw bind. Let me just do that real quick. And also let me real quick close my WhatsApp, because I'm getting a lot of notifications there. So I thought maybe you could do like a jump throw, maybe it would bounce and land, stuff like this. Sorry. I'm having a few distractions here, just to let you know. If you hear a phone alarm, I hope you don't. I broke my phone an hour ago, and now the alarm is ringing that I have to have my session, but I can't turn it off because the screen is broken. So that's pretty unfortunate timing. But I tried all different things. I tried with a steep angle here. I tried going here and doing like a jump throw forward, where it would bounce up and bounce here and bounce out like this. But I felt like the smoke didn't exactly get the effect that I wanted, because as you can see, it still leaves a tiny gap here, and it wasn't really good enough for what I wanted. So I kept searching, and what I found is, if you stand right here and you aim between this, and you do an underhand jump throw forward, you actually get a smoke that lands in this corner, and that is good enough that it smokes off everything, and it smokes on top of the box. Now, this might, from an outside perspective, seem really ridiculous, and you might think, why am I caring so much about finding one stupid smoke? Well, it's because I had an idea, and the idea is, if you could get a smoke to land up there, you could go over here, and you could aim right here with a nade, and what this does is, it blows up the smoke, but only at the top. So it's possible for someone, and I'll try to see if I can do it correct here. Hang on. Oh, here we go. If I do the smoke, and I do the HE, if I'm standing on top of this box, as the HE gets thrown, I can actually see this and kind of see this down here. And it's just a really unexpected move, like doing a smoke that is extremely big, and then blowing it up here. I'll show you even how the nade lands, so you get like an idea of how crazy it is actually that the nade even blows up the smoke. But the idea at least is that you have a full smoke screen basically, and then by standing on top of the box and having a nade pop up here, we can blow only the top of the smoke, and then we can use that to kill the stairs player, or kill the rocks player, or kill the person in water. To add even another piece of utility, as you're doing this, like you could be doing the smoke for yourself and then be going close aim in. Then you need a friend who is able to do the HE for you, of course. But what you could do also before this is you could, on the back wall here, bounce a Molotov in the water. So if someone is here, they will have to move, and you will also hear the information of them tagging in the Molotov. I'm sure also there is a lineup around where you throw this HE, where you could maybe, whatever, bounce a Molotov, something like this. I haven't found this lineup, but I'm sure there is a lineup of some kind, maybe a W jump throw. And yeah, I just think this is a move that it's definitely not meta defying. It's definitely not going to change how Anubis is being played or something like this. But what it is going to do is it's going to catch someone off guard. And it might be a way to get an entry frag in one specific round. And yeah, I think what could be interesting about this as well, because that's always the way it goes, when you play against good players, if I'm going to use this smoke, and if I'm going to use the smoke, and I'm going to do this move against an opponent, well then the second time that I'm throwing this smoke, the Ts are going to be really paranoid of playing in this area because they are afraid that we are randomly going to blow up the smoke and kill them again. So it's a smoke that can be used for conditioning essentially, and is also a smoke that blocks off this area at the start of the round. So it's more of like I would say a gimmick, but it is a trick that could win you a round in an important situation. So I've shown this move before as well, but I think this is a really good example of thinking outside the box. And did someone say something? No. Okay, perfect. If you go in here, and now I have the default view model. I'm gonna put the pin of my grenade here. I'm gonna do a W jump throw, and this smoke goes over this whole structure and bounces a couple of times, and then it's going to land nicely here at the back of connector. And it's going to fill out all of connector essentially, so that for the CTs, if they want to be defending this area, they have to be playing inside connector, and then what the CTs normally do is they will smoke this outside off. And then I have also a solution for this. So I go in here and I aim here, and then I take a running step forward. This Molotov lands like here, combined with the smoke, means that the CTs are only able to stand in this tiny area. And then I have another, thing for that. As the smoke is up and the Molotov is burning, I know the CTs can only be in this area, so I can spray with my AK in this area, see if I get a kill. If I don't get a kill, if I don't deal damage, then I know I can walk through the smoke and I win connector, basically.
Sorry, do you always have to line up that molly that you throw, or you can just throw it randomly?
Yeah.
If you line it up, you are like sure that you will hit it, no?
Yes, exactly.
I see.
And that's the big deal, because also if I can just do it on feeling. Like, let's say I'm just doing it on feeling. Maybe the Molotov lands further back, so now you can see, okay, now the CT can stand like this instead, where I will be, not able to spam him. So it is important that you find like a pretty consistent lineup for something like this.
The CTs and the Team Molotovs spread differently though, right? So you'd have a Team Molotov.
Yeah, that's also actually true. I will show you though, it will give the same sort of effect.
I mean, if you have good map geometry, you can do it like randomly.
If I have what, sorry?
Good map geometry, like every corner of the map.
Yeah, but it is more difficult when like there is a smoke here. It can be difficult to exactly. Make sure you line it up perfectly. Like, I can probably do it a lot of the time, but you see here now this up here is potentially not burning, which as long as the smoke is here, that's kind of okay. But yeah, this whole thing, I've shown it to you before, and I think it's so clever because it's a way of outplaying your opponent in a really specific way. And since then, because I've been doing this a lot in Face It has a really good, chance of success, basically. What I had someone do was he did the smoke, and then as I did the Molotov, so I did this Molotov, of course, what he did was he went through the smoke and he edged here. So when I was walking through this smoke, then he just killed me for free. And
I see. Because if it's like the smoke and the molly, if you stay in the middle, you don't take damage, no?
exactly. And so that is a really extremely good counter to exactly this move. But I've done this so much in Face It, and I still do it to this day, and I've only ever tried that one person has countered me in this way, right? So it is not something that a lot of people think about, but if my move here, and I call it my move because I would say I've kind of invented it again, there's not so many that do it, basically. But if people would start edging the Molotov against me, then this is no longer a good move. Like, you can't just, do the smoke and do the Molotov, whatever, and then spam this, and if you don't kill him, you can just walk through. Because if he's edging, he will kill you. So now, to again upgrade this move, I could go to the left side here, and I could, after spamming, bounce a flash, so that if he is edging, then he has to decide, does he want to shoot in blind while he's standing here, or does he want to fall back outside connector? And that's why, like, there's always ways you can take even tactics that are good and that are created by professionals and stuff like this and upgrade them. Because what I then did, now we're talking about so many levels of basically just connector control on Anubis, right? But what I started doing is, if this smoke is up and I would gain connector control, I started just walking through the left side of the smoke on random timings, because as you're coming through the smoke, you actually only are facing against jail and someone playing close pillar, but they are typically looking this way. So if you walk,
like a lurk, no?
I mean, yes, I don't know if I would say it's a lurk. I think it's more like a aggressive move. Like it's more like it's a huge risk I'm taking, but I'm kind of the playmaker in this moment, where typically a lurk is more like a late round player. But at least this has been so good for me, because if jail is not focused on you, you can come through, you can kill him. And if you don't see anyone jail, don't see anyone pillar, you can just start clearing these angles and like getting out from the smoke. It's a super, super strong move. But there are ways that, again, they can counter me. If they have someone jail who is just standing here and only holding the smoke, then again, I'm fully dead. So we can always go a level deeper, and we can have someone from my team, whatever, throw a random flash through here. Or we can have someone who, just does a jail Molotov before I go. But then there could also be someone standing here, and that's why with this smoke I found this Molotov where I think I went like here, and I move over to the side and I do like this, and then I Molo. And now you have a pillar Molotov, but now I can edge my pillar Molotov to check jail, which makes my move even more unexpected, because for the jail guy, he sees this utility and there's a big flame here, so it's almost impossible for him to see me. So it's like thinking outside the box when creating new strategies in Counter-Strike is really, really, I think, fun and interesting. But it's also something that, like, can actually, even if you're maybe not the most talented Counter-Strike player, it's something that can get you a job at a good team. I saw, for example, there's this guy, I actually don't think he's like a bad player. I don't think he's the best player I've seen, but there is this guy who does very good Twitter content. I assume he might kind of stop making great Twitter content, but he was never really the best player, I think. He struggled to really find his way into consistent professional Counter-Strike, but now he's been starting to focus more on making tricks, thinking outside the box and stuff like that on Twitter. And now, recently, like 2 days ago or something, he became the head coach of Endpoint, which is actually a quite good team. And one of the things he found out was that you could do like I don't know them, but you can do a spawn lineup where you can run without moving your mouse, and then as you're coming here, you can like throw a Molotov that kind of hits up here and bounces down and lands here. Sorry, I'd sneeze. But this is something that
Bless
you know. Thank you. This is something that any amateur potentially could figure out themselves, and having these kind of lineups and thinking outside the box is just able to surprise your opponent. It also took, I don't know how long, like when did Anubis come out? It came out already in CSGO, I think. Yeah, but like when it came out in terms of like the pro map pool, I guess that's like 1.5 years ago or something.
I think after Dust 2 got removed, no?
Yeah,
To
So
2022.
maybe. Yeah, 2020.
I think it came out right around when I played in Undefined, and I think that was start of 2023. But either way, it's very recent that people found out you can run here and nade. And I don't know the lineup. Actually, I think it's this line. I'll try it one more time. You can run and nade, first try by the way, and you can nade right down here, so that when the CTs are running across and they're going towards a cave, you can nade right here, and the timing fits so that you deal massive damage, and you can have multiple people. You can have 3 people starting by doing this. And you could potentially kill the connector player at the start of the round.
Wait, do that again. Wow.
Yeah. And it can be done with a Molotov as well. It does take a little bit of practice to get to land right. But yeah, it's super super nice move. I know my team recently as well have found a lineup, or there is some lineup where you can you stop here real quick and then you aim. I don't know where you aim, but you aim somewhere here or something and then like do like this or something. I don't know the lineup. My team does. I think though, if you get good at this kind of movement, you can just do it like that consistently. But this is something where obviously this is really, really extremely impressive to come up with. The same as people who came up with this smoke, for example. Go stuck in here, aim here, and normal jump throw. Let me see. This one is prone to failing sometimes. But like smoking top con in this way is just crazy. You hit the back of this, you bounce it off this, and you smoke connector off. This is just something where it requires someone to think extremely outside the box, and I think that's a super beautiful thing. Like that's the way the map overall just evolves. Like I saw, for example, recently people have been starting to do something like this, which is a flash that goes up behind this wall. So if you're holding mid, you can barely see it. You can throw it, I think even you throw it maybe from a little bit further back, but something like that. So it's like a little bit more pop, and I think it's harder to see. Like this is basically impossible for the mid player to dodge. And I also saw people have started using this flash. You get stuck in here, you go up from the line up to here and do flash. And this is like a perfect lineup for a mid flash. But I have just never seen anyone do it before. I remember, I think it was Kito or someone like this, who even had a lineup where he, I don't know, did like the Molotov for this, like this or something like this. Or maybe he, I don't know, he hit something. Maybe it was even, I don't know. I don't even know what it was. But I just remember there was like a lineup for this where he was doing something like, I mean, potentially you could even do this, right? And it's just, these kind of different lineups are so interesting to me. Like, I spent 1.5 hours finding this smoke, for example, which I thought, okay, how can I use a smoke for a retake on A the best? Because there are actually windows, right? So one of the best places would be to have a smoke that maybe lands like this and fills up everything, so it allows you to the space to go out and fight like this side of the smoke and fight this side of the smoke. Like this is a really, really good smoke for the retake as a CT. But then I was also thinking, and I'm not sure I can let it completely correctly, but I think I found like something like this, where you basically have a kind of one way above this heaven smoke, so you give yourself space to like get out without being spotted, and then you can kind of play around the smoke, and you can like jump down in the smoke and stuff like this. That's also an interesting idea. But eventually I was also thinking, like, obviously you can smoke A main, but A main is rarely that big of a problem. And so I thought the important position is pillar. And I was thinking about how to isolate this, or like how to mess them up. So I came up with this. And it lands extremely fast and extends quite far down. So you can't stand in a super comfortable way here. And you can't really defend heaven in a good way either. And it kind of nullifies the pillar position. But then I found out that you don't even have to make it that difficult, because you can actually just go to the top of these stairs and Molotov like this. And I don't remember the lineup, but there is a lineup where you can aim and it bounces, I think, off this pillar or something like this. And it smokes off aiming. Let me give it like another go here. Oops. Ah, I'm so close. But yeah, now I messed it up. But anyway, these are all things where I spent 1.5 hours finding a smoke that landed here at pillar to nullify this position, basically. But the answer was actually far more simple, and it was just going up here and aiming here, and that's it. I don't feel like I wasted my time finding the smoke, because it's still such a crazy cool idea. But yeah, it's just why I think Counter-Strike is so interesting. I saw also... How was it? Someone threw a flash like this or something. Let me try to see if I can find it. Does anyone know this flash?
I mean, I have a similar lineup from that. You want to pop flash the con guy, no?
Yeah, exactly.
So you like have that window what you're trying to draw, but you actually like straight into it. So like you're under the window, under that little window,
Like this?
and on the edge of it, edge of this white wall, you're yeah, like that, just simply like that, and it will pop into it, I believe.
Oh. Yes. Let's see.
Yeah.
And this is like, yeah, again, something that you will never normally think about. But all it takes is one guy who has a crazy idea, right? Is this window, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and it was like this. But this is something that's so crazy. I saw, like, the one that I saw was kind of the same. Maybe it was more like this, but at least it landed further in this corner. So it took this angle as well. I'm sure there is, like, a slightly better lineup. Maybe it is just something like this. But yeah, anyway. Maybe like that. Let me try it here. I need to just see if we can get it. No, okay, never mind. But anyway, really nice that you knew the lineup, by the way. But yeah, I
mean,
think
I
this
kinda
is...
like
Yeah?
played with it a little bit, so yeah, I find it myself.
Yeah, okay. But it's so cool, like the many things you can do in Counter-Strike, and especially in CS2, it's so interesting. Like, for example, if you throw a smoke here, how it extends down and fills up the whole space. It means that there's like a ton of areas where you can actually land, you know, a smoke up on something, and it will still extend and fill out the whole space. So yeah, this is what is kind of is kind of that. I'll see if I have any other good examples of thinking outside the box. I mean, I sure have. Yeah, the reason I'm thinking so much is because I do actually have a lot of tricks, but at the same time, I don't want to give all the tricks away from my own team. But yeah, I'll just see if... Let's just go to Ancient and fly around a little bit. Because really, if you are really passionate about Counter-Strike... Oh no, I did it wrong. If you're really passionate about Counter-Strike, this is really something you can just do on your own time. Load up into a server, fly around, see if you can find some crazy idea that no one's thought about before. It doesn't even have to be the most crazy thing. But just practicing this will set you up for success when it comes to especially new maps being added. Like, I don't really know the lineup anymore. Actually, how was it at all? It was here, right? That someone had a lineup? Oh man, I wish I was a player still. There is a lineup, which I don't remember anymore, which is a W jump throw lineup, where you aim somewhere and you hit like this, kind of. But it goes over and it lands like this. I think it is from this side, maybe. Does anyone know this lineup? Something like this, yes. Kind of like that. And the idea is that I think there is a slightly better lineup, but yeah. Essentially, you can get a Molotov to land and it burns here. And it doesn't burn all of the boost, but it burns enough so that anyone who is up here has to kind of expose themselves to A main or have to go all the way at the back where they can't really hold. And this is something that, you know, I would even say it doesn't even seem possible, but is possible. This same, like, yeah, I call him Holmes, but it's because it's like, sounds so funny. The same, like, endpoint guy. I saw another thing he did on Twitter was something where he even had like I believe he had a lineup from in here, where he smoked up through this window, and it hit the... Yeah, something like this, basically. But imagine that it bounced in and landed like this. And then he had like a flash lineup or something like this as well. Where maybe he was running and it was bouncing up really like high up. I actually don't know. Like something like this maybe. I don't know. I feel like there was more to it. But at least... I think maybe, let's say he was doing a Molotov so he could get into this position, and then he would be doing like the fucking smoke, and then doing the flash or something like this, right? And then the idea is that you can like retake this space in a really creative way. It might have not been exactly like this, but this is just a million ways where you can think outside the box. I was even thinking about... yeah, this is a little bit deep. I don't even remember what I did. I remember I managed to do it on the first try. But I did something like that. Just, yeah, maybe I did it on the first try again. Essentially, smoking CT on A, but from B. And what's always so interesting about finding smokes like this is obviously not the most difficult lineup. But it allows you to, if you are at a low level in Faceit... Oh, that's a crazy smoke. If you are at a low level in Faceit, or just overall not kind of near playing professional Counter-Strike, smoking A from B allows you to probably go B much more easily. But these kind of crazy utilities, they always... there's always mind games, just like what we had on Anubis. There's always mind games with the utility. So, for example, if I would do this smoke in a professional match, right, I would assume that when I throw this smoke from B and it lands on A, that the A players, who are also professionals, are good enough to hear that the smoke came bouncing over this wall, which is something that's really unexpected. And it also could be that the B player who is playing here sees a smoke fly through the air and go over to A. So if my opponents are good enough and I throw this smoke, it's actually very likely that they say, oh, this smoke came from B. And so because of that, they are thinking, that's again always the mind game, they are thinking that we are smoking A from B, so we are probably going B. And my idea was that maybe you could actually use this smoke to help do an A execute. Imagine doing the CT smoke from here, but doing like the donut smoke from outside A, right? And then for the CTs, it looks like a bad A fake, when in reality, it is actually an A take, where you have 4 in A main, and you have someone lurking super late from B. But a bad team will think that it's A, and against a bad team, it's probably best to go B with this. Whereas a good team will probably realize that one of the smokes came from B, and will think that it's an A fake, so we are coming B. Like, it's kind of, it sounds just stupid even when I'm trying to explain it like this, but yeah, this is, in my opinion, you know, thinking somewhat outside the box. I'll give you another example here. In CS2, because of the open skyboxes, people were doing a lot of like smoking deep mid. I didn't have like the correct spawn here, I just was standing somewhere, but people were smoking deep, and then they were doing like a running Molotov that would like land in this space, so that the T's had a tough time going out mid. And what people did to counter this is that when this Molotov comes, it's possible for you again to edge the Molotovs and stand here and get kills, basically. So what some CTs did instead to counter this is that instead of doing the smoke, they will do double Molotovs. Because with double Molotovs, there is no place to edge. And then to counter this, what T's started doing is they would smoke like this instead. So that they can edge the Molotov, but just edge the Molotov with their own smoke. And yeah, these are all tricks where it seems simple enough in essence, but it's not possible to do until someone has had the thought. Any questions? Okay, I will just take a sip of my water, guys, because it's pretty warm here.
No AC.
Yes, European plebs. We don't have the privilege of living in a already very hot area, so that we actually installed air conditioning units in our houses. You know, it's positive and negative. So I want to talk a little bit because I mean I could be just showing you guys tricks the whole day, and I could be talking about this thinking outside the box a lot more. But I think people understand the concept, and I hope what this session already has gotten people to think about is how many opportunities and possibilities there are in Counter-Strike. I personally, and this is also from before I was professional, I liked sitting down and doing like theory crafting sessions, where literally I will fly around the map and I will just look at the map almost and think about, is there something I can do different? I can actually give you another example. Whoever came up with the fact that you can smoke cave like this in a retake is a genius. Like, who gets this thought? but it's really, really neat. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, you could also probably just find a lineup like that goes over and goes through the window, which might be like, I think you guys understand my idea here. Ooh, that was actually extremely close. Sorry, I need to give this another go, because that was very, very close. Maybe slightly down? So this smoke didn't bounce exactly like how I wanted it. But if I throw it slightly more to the right, maybe it will hit the back. No, not quite. But this is, again, something like, these kind of things I think are just fun to do. And if you don't think it's fun to do, I mean, there are so many YouTube channels out there. A big shout out to the YouTuber Nard out here, who has like a ton of professional Counter-Strike tricks. And what, yeah, just to explain kind of what I'm sometimes doing is I will fly around and I will just even throw smokes on places where they're actually not supposed to be. Like, if you do a smoke here, for example, what effect does this give you? Okay, it gives you a smoke like this that you can creep around. And I think that's kind of interesting. Then I'll see, okay, does this have a surface where I can land a smoke? No. Okay, maybe I can throw a smoke like this. And by doing all these kind of things, or maybe whatever, I can get a smoke to land up there. By doing these kind of things, you get to test how would it look if a smoke landed here. And if the smoke then lands in a way that you like, then you can afterwards go and look for a lineup. That's essentially it. I'll show you one last thing, and then I will switch the topic a little bit. Back in CSGO, and again, I don't have the correct spawn here, but someone found out that if you spawn in a certain place and you aim here, you can keep your mouse here. I think actually it was Mouse Sports that did it the first time. And this will, by the way, fail because it's not the right lineup. But then you could go like this and hold the A key at the end. And you will have, actually this will probably land now. You would have a fast donut smoke, which was 100% consistent basically. Because what people were doing before this is they would be coming up here, and then as they're doing an A-pop, they would be throwing like, I don't even really know the donut smoke because I rarely use it anymore. This might be it. Oh, that was very close. But people would be using like this smoke for donut, and the disadvantage of this smoke was that it would be taking up kind of a lot of time for whoever was throwing it, but also would be landing pretty late. And instead, Frozen was the first one to do it. I don't know if he invented it, but at least someone from Mousesports did, I guess. I do it kind of on feeling, but I know there's also some people who go up to here and aim here or something like this. I don't know exactly how it works, but it's, if you don't know the spawns, you can do it. I think this might actually work. Yes, almost at least. But even, I think I can do it almost just on feeling. Like, I don't need really a lineup for it. I can just go and do it like that, and I think it'll land, hopefully. Oh, okay, it landed on that one pixel that it can't land on. But majority of the time, I can land this. And this is also one of those things where it's actually effectivizing gameplay a whole lot. It makes A-rushes way more possible, because I remember Robs even had a different smoke lineup where he would go here and he would stand like this, and then he would, I think, run and do like something crazy like this, and then it would bounce. Yeah, actually, holy hell, I somehow pretty much did it. But again, this took up someone's spawn. Like, someone was stuck having to do this while the rest were rushing A. And this, like, having the ability to do it running just changed the A-rush meta completely. So the reason why this is important is, again, if you are like an amateur and you come up with some trick, or even just add a trick to your gameplay that is abnormal to know at your level, that is probably a trick you can use to win a truckload of rounds. The same way, if you are and upcoming player who wants to try to go pro, being able to do this kind of theory crafting is part of what made Monacy so famous, and also why he's always up to date with the newest tricks, because he studies a lot of Counter-Strike. He plays a lot of Counter-Strike, so he's really up to date with the meta. But also he finds a lot of tricks himself, which is super cool. And also in this, I call him Holmes, like Holmes or whatever his name is. In his example, or his situation, he didn't really. Well, I don't want to talk the guy down. I think he's a decent guy, and I don't know too much about his career, but he didn't really make it pro. So let's just, for the sake of simplicity, say he didn't really have what it took to be a pro. And so instead, he found out that he, has a really good understanding of Counter-Strike still. He has the ability to be an inventor in Counter-Strike, basically. And this is, I assume, ultimately what landed him a coaching gig at Endpoint, because there were people who saw his Twitter post and saw, okay, this guy has a lot of passion for Counter-Strike, is able to come up with new things, is a guy who has a lot of experience in Counter-Strike. And these are all great attributes to have if you're a coach or an analyst or something like this. So I remember also when I played in Sprout, like we... actually, I think even maybe that was this Swanee guy who was the coach of G2 for a while. We were considering hiring him as our analyst in Sprout. And the whole reason behind that was, this is a guy who, he has never played pro, but he spends a lot of time finding ridiculous tricks that we can use as the first ones. And also he, has a good work ethic and will help us study the game or like prepare for our opponents, stuff like this. So if you want to have a career in Counter-Strike and you don't necessarily have what it takes to become a professional player, this is something that I would definitely recommend you guys look into. And since this session is thinking outside the box, and I had a question at the beginning, which was, at the beginning, not at the beginning of the session, but right before I started the session, I had a question about nutrition for gamers, basically. And nutrition is not a word that's used that often in relation to gaming. So just for people who don't have a huge vocabulary in English or who don't know what nutrition is, it's basically like, I don't actually know. Someone smarter than me, like, is nutrition only food or does it include drinks as well? I guess it includes both, right?
It
Yeah,
includes
it's
as
your-
well, yeah. Because there are some like sugary drinks as well that you might not want to drink if you don't want to be
It ruins
jittery,
your.
or
You drink a lot of soda, it
caffeine,
ruins your.
stuffs like that, so it can like hinder your performance as well, help essentially. Like
Yeah.
there are like better ways to like drink caffeine. I think like herb teas and stuff like that. There are some herb teas that contains the healthy caffeine, not like a Monster or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Ooh,
yeah,
that makes
definitely
sense.
drinks are there as well.
Yeah. And I think for me, because I'm no expert on nutrition when it comes to gaming, but I am definitely one of the guys who have done a lot of the things that give you an advantage outside of Counter-Strike. So when I was professional myself, I would obviously do everything I could to optimize my performance. And that included things that I was doing outside the game. So I was trying to stay active at the gym. I was trying to do mental coaching. Like I had mental coaches or like, psychologists basically, who like sports psychologists who were helping me with strengthening my mindset. I was, getting proper sleep. I was getting all these things. And, nutrition is a really, really big deal. At least for me personally, I must be honest and say I can't tell the difference in my play if I ate a burger 4 hours ago or if I ate a salad. But one thing I do think is extremely important when it comes to nutrition is getting enough to eat and getting enough to drink is something that will really change your performance for the better. And I know when I was a young kid wanting to become a professional Counter-Strike player, this is just not any of the things that I really thought about. Like, I'm a horrendous cook, and if I was left to my own devices, I would honestly probably not eat very much, which is also part of the reason why I've always been a pretty thin guy. But I've learned the importance of eating and drinking not only enough but also at the right times. So this is also like a topic which is, I don't know if you can really tie it in with thinking outside the box, but I would say it's not something that directly correlates to your Counter-Strike performance, but it still is something that will make you better at the game. And so in that regard, I guess it does directly relate to your performance. But essentially, in Sprout as well, they had this theory, and again, it's not something where I have a ton of science to back it up. I just have anecdotes from my own experience as a professional player. But in Sprout, they said one of the worst things you can do right before you play a game or a face match or whatever where you want to perform well is eating. Because when you eat, at the beginning, the blood rushes to your stomach and it will, kind of give you a sort of down period, right, where your energy is lower and maybe your focus as well. But also, if you didn't eat for 6 hours, for example, and you're hungry, that's also something that will impact your performance, impact your focus, and these kind of things. So, I think when it comes to nutrition and food and drinks, I think the most important part, especially before you are planning to go pro, is just make sure that you're not playing while you're dehydrated. Make sure you don't play while you're extremely hungry, because these kind of things, while they might not seem like they matter that much, they do really heavily affect your energy, and your energy levels are very important when it comes to Counter-Strike, because being energetic means you have a better focus. It means you're going to be talking more. It means you're going to be thinking faster. It means you're going to be just overall playing better. So I would definitely say don't drink 10 Red Bulls in a day. Don't live off of McDonald's 3 meals a day for 3 months. But yeah, probably some nutritionists will disagree with me. This is my advice. Take it or leave it. As long as you make sure you eat as much of a balanced diet as you can, and that you're not drinking like a shit ton of energy drinks and just sugary drinks throughout the day, then just making sure that you are, well fed and have had enough to drink is something that's going to, impact your performance for the better tremendously. So that's definitely my recommendation. Any questions about anything, guys? Okay. Yeah.
That one question I had earlier.
Yes.
I don't know. You're gonna talk about the fuck.
Yeah. I remember your question.
Oh yeah.
I was.
The,
Yeah. Go ahead. You can say it.
yeah, the performance thing.
Yeah.
Like why performance would change based off like a deathmatch or retakes and then the actual game. Like a PUBG.
Yeah. So basically, what your question is, I'll just say it like super direct because some people didn't hear it before the session and some will be watching the video. What you're essentially saying is that, you're asking, why is it that you play so much better on deathmatch servers or retake servers or whatever, and then it doesn't really translate that well to matches, or at least your aim feels way better on deathmatch than in matches, is essentially the question, right?
Yes.
And I think it is like, you asked me also, I remember, if it had mostly just to do with pressure or what it was, right? And I think, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. That's what it was. Sorry.
Yeah, no, don't apologize. But essentially, like, you should think of it like this: when you're playing deathmatch, and this I think is really important for a lot of people to hear, because I've had those same thoughts myself. When you are playing deathmatch, the reason why your aim feels so insanely good is because you are practicing your aim in isolation. Like, there is not much else going on than aiming. And it is, as you say, there is no pressure in a deathmatch server. And also, you have way more chances. Like, you are constantly active. You never have a boring moment and stuff like this. And so, it would be the same as, how can I say, a football player who is taking a free kick. Like, if you're just out at the local park and you are just standing for 3 hours shooting free kicks at an empty net, whatever, I bet there will be a lot of these shots that will be, hitting inside the goal frame, right? You'll be scoring a lot of goals. But part of that is also because you build up the repetition in the moment of doing the same thing over and over and over again in isolation. And then when you go into a match like a Face It or whatever, there is things like pressure. There are grenades being thrown. There are teammates talking. There is a timer on you. There is like all these kind of outside factors that affect you. Plus, you will sometimes have what, I guess it's like kind of your aim goes cold. Like, I know a lot of people have it that as AWP players, for example, they call it having a cold angle. If you're sitting holding the exact same angle for, let's say, 15 seconds plus, it actually feels like your reaction time increases by a lot. And when I say reaction time, obviously it gets worsened, right? Like, it increases, so that the amount of time before you click when he appears on your screen goes up because you lose your focus and you get on what's sort of known as a cold angle. So what some people do is they will sit and like jiggle back and forth and stuff like that to keep themselves ready. I'm honestly not a big fan of this, but this is part of playing a match. You won't always be in the action. Whereas when you're playing a deathmatch, you're constantly in the action, and I think that's the biggest thing for sure. I also think, I'm sure some of you know the streamer called Doc, a very very big streamer, and he's a quite good player. Never really went pro, but I think it's kind of widely accepted in the Counter-Strike community that this guy had what it takes to be a pro if he wanted to. And at least in terms of his mechanical skill, he might actually be, I think right now not, but there was some time when he was coming up in FPL where he legitimately might have been a top 15 mechanical player in the world. When strictly looking at aim and movement and stuff like this, maybe 15 is even like low. Maybe he was top 10, because he was actually crazy good. And I remember specifically he set like a record for the most kills in a FPL game without overtime, something like this, something ridiculous, like 47 kills on Mirage. But this guy,
MR12.
no, this was MR15.
Okay.
But yeah, it was still crazy. I think it was like a 16-10 or something like this, so it's pretty crazy. But this guy, Doc, I played with him back then, and what I think a lot of people know, but what some people maybe don't know, was that he came up as actually a pretty good player, and he was communicating with text to speech. So his parents supposedly didn't allow him to use a microphone at home. And with this, right, it is kind of like, let me see if I can get a good example here. It is kind of like having a football player who has okay, for lack of something better, he has a tumor, or he was born with 4 toes on his right foot or something like this, and so he's only ever allowed to shoot with his left leg, right? I'll use even a football example. Not that this was like with the 4 toes or anything, but like anyone who knows the like football probably has heard the name Robben. And he is famous for being super good at one thing, which is like cutting inside the box and shooting with his left foot. And everyone always knew that he was going to do it, and somehow it anyway always worked because he was just super good at this one thing. And in Doc's example, because he never had to talk, he only could climb the ELO leaderboards by getting better aim, getting better movement, and getting better at playing around his teammates without communicating. And so that is why he became one of the best in the world at mechanics, is because where maybe a normal Counter-Strike player who's also able to use the microphone and stuff like that, they will be inventing strats or calling rounds, or they will be communicating, oh, one is A, one is whatever, I'm gonna push now, I'm gonna... All these kind of small things that they can use to climb on the ELO leaderboards, he never even had to think about, because it was just not possible for him. He didn't have a microphone. And so the only ways that he could actually improve were with a couple of parameters where most people have, you know, many different things that they can improve on at the same time. And yeah, sorry, it's kind of a long story, but what it basically is Doc was never like a super well-rounded player. Well, I mean, he is actually mechanically very well-rounded, but in terms of why he never went pro, it could be because he basically had to start as a guy who had tier 2, tier 1 level mechanics, but with none of the communication and teamwork. And that is something that is also very, very difficult to learn, right? So imagine that you are Doc when you're playing deathmatch. You only have a few parameters that you have to kind of focus on, and you have only a few like things you can improve while you're there. So in that moment, you are hyper focused on just perfecting those things, and that is why on deathmatch it will feel like you are insanely good. And obviously in a match there are things like pressure as well that come into play, which, you know, aren't there in deathmatch. But I think the most important thing is just that, like, when you play deathmatch, it's an inaccurate representation. I think every player in the world is better on deathmatch than they are at hitting shots in matches, because that's what you do in deathmatch. The same way if you are, like, there are some people in football, I'll use football as an example because it's the biggest sport, and it's something that I followed a bit. But there are people who are like world champions in juggling with a ball, for example. That's also something, it's such a specific skill. These people have such a good control of the ball in the air and even on the floor as well, if they are like playing panna and stuff like this. But they are far from being professional players because they have none of the teamwork. So kind of just to give a little bit of a assignment for the people here at the Academy, try in your next Premier game or in your next Faceit game, try to play solo queue and don't communicate a single word, no matter what level you are. Don't even try to talk. Try to give yourself the chance to try and win the match only with mechanics and only with moving around your teammates. And what you will find is that you will probably get more kills than you normally would, exactly because you are only focused on getting kills and nothing else. And that's also why most of the times when we see young talent come up from an academy team, from lower levels and join a better team, even look at someone like Ultimate from Liquid. This is not a player I know too well, so I'm using him as an example, but I might be wrong on this. But when I see the player cams, I almost never see him talking. Also, in between the rounds, he looks like a stone cold killer and stuff like this. And it is likely the reason why he was able to actually, you know, be kind of unimpressive in tier 3 and tier 4, but be very impressive in what's closer to tier 1, is because he now has players who are better at taking care of all of the parameters that he's not good at. I don't think he necessarily is a great communicator. I don't think necessarily he is good at taking control of rounds and calling a bunch of strats and stuff like this. But he has world-class players around him that can fill out this. The same way Doc he is really good in FPL because the people fill out the gaps that he leaves. The same way a young player is good at probably just killing people in Counter-Strike. And so with that, they are, that's their focus. So they will have good stats. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. And I really urge you all to try and play your next Counter-Strike match solo and just focusing only on maximizing kills. And I think what you will find is just like deathmatch. Maybe your aim won't be as good as deathmatch, but you will start thinking thoughts that you don't normally have because normally you're focused on so many other things like communicating and reading the game and like so on and so on. And just to really finish this off, this is also why we so often see star players, most recently Device, now we see Twist as well. These star players who become IGLs, they typically lose a lot of their star power when they become IGLs because they start thinking about the macro game. So like, where are all my teammates positioned, blah, 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 blah. How can I put my teammates in a winning position? What call can I make now to win the round, and blah, blah, blah. And then they lose focus on just being a star and getting a lot of kills. And that's also why, Device, immediately when he went from being a star player to being an IGL, team was playing great, he was playing great. But now that he's adjusting more and more to the role of an IGL, he sees that as his main focus, and so he becomes, in a way, he loses part of his star power, and that's hard to get back. And I'm pretty sure we will see the same trend with Twists. If you rewatch this video in 2 months, Twists will be having stats that look much closer to an IGL stat, something like 0.9, 0.95 past 3 months, and he will have lost a lot of this star power. Maybe he will even, in 4 months, have changed off the role and they will have found someone else to do it, and Twists will try to find his old form back. So yeah, a whole lot of thoughts on that. I hope that Elio, it feels like you got an answer on this.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Perfect. And also to you, Elio, since you were the one who asked the question, I recommend you go and try it out on like your next match as well. That you just focus only on not so much communicating to your teammates and doing what feels right for them. Just try to focus only on doing what's right for you, and I think you will see you're gonna get a lot more kills, and your aim will feel sharper because you can dedicate more of your sort of brain's processing power on just that.
Okay.
All right. Well, guys, as it often is on these lovely Thursdays, it is a lovely Friday tomorrow, and I have to wake up in something like 7 hours. So I think I will end the session here. But I hope that you guys got some of your questions answered, and I hope you felt like you learned something new. I hope also that you feel kind of like interested in Counter-Strike in a different way after showing some of the things that are like thinking outside the box. And obviously I will also urge anyone who is here at the Academy or who is watching the video to go on an offline server from time to time and see if you can find a new cool smoke that no one's thought about before, or maybe next time that a new map gets added to the map pool, you can be one of the first to figure out how the map plays, what kind of grenades are good, and so on and so forth. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this session, and I hope to see you again next time.